All right. Thank you guys for hanging out for the last hour. We're going to get started. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Rebecca Niemiec, who's going to be talking a little bit on the human-animal bond and what we can do to preserve it. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Niemiec.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so honored to be back and to be able to talk to you all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rebecca, or Becky. I'm over at Colorado State University, and I run a new center that we just started there about a year ago called the Animal Human Policy Center. And we bring stakeholders together and collect social science information to inform policies on animal issues, so animal-human relations. And so I'm going to be presenting some of my work on that today, but especially focused on the animal-human bond. And before that, I was manager of the Bureau of Animal Protection, so that's the capacity in which some of you might know me today. So I, and what I'm excited to talk about today relates to my prior experience in the BAP, where I was, where just like all of you, we were dealing with these cases in which the human-animal bond was threatened. And so these cases had resulted in situations of potential neglect or, cases in which, maybe there wasn't a human-animal bond in the first place, resulting in cruelty. But since my role in BAP, I've become a lot more interested also in the positive side, so not just the negative side of the human-animal bond breaking, but the positive side of what happens when we keep people with their pets. What sort of benefits does this provide to both people and their pets? And what sort of threats are there that can influence whether that bond is broken, whether people neglect their pets, can't care for their pets, or have to relinquish it? And so today I'm going to be talking about that, and then most importantly, providing an opportunity for us all to share, ideas, experiences, resources for how we can help preserve the animal-human bond in our community. So I'm really hoping to just facilitate a discussion, mostly among you all, because you all are the experts in the field dealing with this every day, and I'm sure have tons of experience, have tried a lot of different things in your community. So really what I want to do is just allow everyone here to hear from each other about, what you've been able to do and what's been successful. And I'll just add some data because I love data. Okay. Great. So 3 goals for today's talk. The first is to discuss the benefits of the human-animal bond. And some of you may have seen this research, but this is kind of a nascent field of research, and it's really exciting. And I think it'll mostly, confirm your perceptions of I think this is what's happening, but it's always nice when we can back it up with science. And then the second thing I'm going to do is discuss some of the threats to the human-animal bond here in Colorado. And so over the past year, my colleagues and I have actually been collecting a bunch of data on this, looking at what is leading people to have to give up their pets, what is leading people to have trouble caring for those pets. And then, as I discussed before, we'll get into those opportunities and resources in which we could help each other, figure out how to preserve the human-animal bond in the communities we serve. Okay, so let's start off with some definitions. What is the human-animal bond? Well, it's defined as a mutually beneficial relationship between people and animals. So it's this idea that people not only care for their pets or their animals, but also, pets, animals provide benefits to people. And we're not just talking about a few people here. As Governor Polis mentioned earlier this morning, 70% of U.S. households own pets, and the vast majority of pet owners see their pets as a family member. And we actually found from our own data of Colorado pet owners, the number that see their pets as family is 82%. So this animal-human bond is something that's really affecting the majority of people here in the state. So we know that, pets provide benefits to people, but what sort of benefits am I talking about when I say, pets provide these benefits? So I will show you some of the research, but first I want to hear your thoughts. So what I would like you to do is this is the first of 3 different breakout groups that we're going to do today. So I want you to get together with at least 2 other people next to you and just spend the next 2 minutes seeing if you could come up with as long of a list as possible of the benefits that you think pets provide to people. And Taylor's laughing at me because my teaching side is coming out. I can't hide it. I taught for many years. Okay. Okay, so take 2 minutes, and then we'll see how long of a list we could come up with. Are you? Don't use AI. No phones allowed. Okay, 15 seconds. All right, let's come back together. You'll have a lot more time to talk to the people next to you. Who wants to start us off by listing maybe 2 benefits you talked about? Companionship, yes, absolutely. Socialization. Unconditional love, absolutely. What was that? Protection, absolutely. Exercise, increasing exercise, absolutely. How? Yeah, that's great. Some help for introverts to exit the party, absolutely. How about anyone on this side of the room? Health benefits, absolutely. Yes, you're basically quoting a slide I'm about to show. Absolutely, reduce blood pressure. Yes, this is a great list, and actually some of the benefits that you all talked about are not on this list, so I'm going to have to, maybe we all need to write a paper and update the literature ourselves. But, here were some of the things that, that studies have found when they have studied, what is it like when pet owners are hanging out with their pets, and they find there's a variety of different benefits that are both physical and mental health benefits. So increased happiness, reduced stress, depression, and loneliness, increased emotional social support, increased exercise, potentially healthy hearts and less doctor visits. So one study found that just spending time with a cat can reduce heart rate and both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. And another study found that relative to people without pets, people with pets had significantly lower heart rate and blood pressure levels during a resting baseline. And then my favorite study, this was a longitudinal study, meaning that they tracked people over time, and they enrolled about 100 people in the study, and then they gave 70 of them pets, which is like, that seems like a really intense study to be like, you're going to participate and now you have a dog. But what they found is basically that they compared people who were given a pet with those who remained without a pet, and found that those who were given a pet had benefits in their mental health and their physical activity just after 10 months compared to the 26 non-pet owners. Okay, so one important point from the literature is that the positive impacts of pets may be particularly pronounced among those experiencing difficult life circumstances or mental health challenges, and I'm sure many of you have seen this out in the field. And so especially among older adults, we see that pet ownership provides companionship, meaning, socialization. We also see the mental health benefits of being able to maintain pet ownership among people experiencing homelessness, and among people with mental health struggles, pets can reduce urges of self-harm and prevent onsets of panic attacks and even suicide attempts. And what's interesting is this occurs both through direct mechanisms, so like actually lowering your physiological anxiety through the physical touch of, say, petting your cat or petting your dog, but also indirect mechanisms. So just, I love this one. They found there was increased humor in people's lives, increased mindfulness, and disrupting rumination. And rumination is this process, I'm sure we all feel it, when you're thinking about that thing that you said earlier in the day and you're feeling bad about it and you're feeling like maybe you should have said something else, and you keep thinking about it over and over again. But then if your cat is doing something weird, you stop thinking about it. Okay, so I would like to now move on to the second part of my talk. So we already established, the benefits of the human-animal bond, but now I'd like to discuss some of those threats to the bond. And what I mean by threats to the human-animal bond is basically circumstances or challenges that lead to people having to give up their pets or make it difficult for them to care for their pets. And so some of my own and my colleagues' research and others has found that these threats to the human-animal bond are increasing, and that there's a variety of different threats to the human-animal bond, making it difficult for people to care for their pets here in Colorado Colorado as well as throughout the nation. So I'm going to bring you back to your breakout room. And by room, I mean the two people next to you, and then ask you to come up with another list. But this time, I want you to think about, what do you think are the most common threats to the human-animal bond here in Colorado? And you could use your own personal experience, but also all of your extensive experience out in the field dealing with these cases, seeing people who are struggling to care for their pets. See if you could come up with a list based on that. And once again, I think we're going to come up with a more comprehensive list than the literature based on all your experience. So give it about 2 minutes and then we'll come back together. Are you done already? How many do you have? 3. No phones, only experience. I'm going to share some DFL statistics. Correct. Jump in a little bit later. All right. Let's come back together. What were some of the threats we came up with? Let's start in the back of the room this time. Anyone in the back want to start us off with a threat? Yeah. Finances. So, and that's cost of caring for pets more broadly, or cost of all sides. Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely, thank you. So we had a lot in there around finances, veterinary care, being able to feed pets, being able to provide any other care for pets when you're having to deal with your human family members as well. In the very back, what do you have to add? Housing. Absolutely. So restrictive pet housing policy, finding houses that will allow you to bring your pet. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So people may care about their pets, even see them as family members, but not understand how to properly care for their pets in a way that benefits their pets. Absolutely. So education there. Yeah, what else? Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Mental health challenges, crises, yeah. Finance, great. Awesome. Well, this is a great list, and all I'm going to do is add some numbers, because I like numbers. Okay, so, but yes, we've talked about some of the key issues here, and the first set of numbers that I want to start with is relinquishment data, because relinquishment is one indicator of a threat to an animal-human bond. Something happened where people are having to give up their pets, and when people give up their pets, when they relinquish them, they no longer have those wide range of benefits that we talked about that's coming from their pets. So, but how prevalent is this? So I collected some data from 3 major shelters in Denver, Colorado Springs, and Grand Junction. I know you probably already have your own data that you're working with as well, but just from 2021 to 2023, over 50,000 pets were relinquished in just 3 shelters. And so there's going to be a lot more than that when we think about shelters. And in the next slide, I'm going to talk about how there's even more than that when we think about relinquishments, not to shelters, but to other places. when I went to the different shelters, asked for relinquishment reasons, these varied, and the level of specificity varied by shelter as well. But reasons included, animal behavior is one, not figuring out how to manage an animal's behavior, housing landlord issues. So as we talked about, pet housing policy, having too many animals, which I know is something you all deal with a lot, and owner challenges and just general challenges being able to provide care. So another thing that we did is in the past year, we did some surveys of the Colorado public, and specifically we did some surveys of pet owners in Colorado, over 900 that were demographically representative of the Colorado public. But we also went to pet pantries, low-cost clinics to get data from those experiencing the greatest need. And one of the things that we found is among those folks who completed the survey who were representative, 27% reported having to give away a pet before in their life, which I think this number is astonishing. More than a quarter of people have had to give a pet away before, so that human-animal bond was broken. And something that I thought was interesting is the most common reason they were giving their pets away, the most common place they were giving their pets to were friends, families, other in their social network. So when we think back to that 50,000 number of relinquishment data, that's only a portion of relinquishments happening, because those were the relinquishments that happened to the shelter, when actually the most common relinquishments are happening to people in their social network. And the most common reason for relinquishment was the person in the back had mentioned pet housing policies. So move to a location that didn't allow pets, followed by pet behavioral issues and experienced housing instability. Another thing that I thought was also a huge number that I don't think I expected was that 18% of respondents reported having trouble getting pet food in the past 2 years, and the most common reason why was not being able to afford it. So these numbers are pretty large. We're not talking about just a kind of a small portion of the population. We're talking about almost a quarter of the population when we're talking about these threats. Lack of access to veterinary care, that was another factor that you all brought up. And so our rising costs of veterinary care. In these surveys, we also asked respondents about veterinary care, and we found 28% of Colorado pet owners tried to get veterinary care in the past 2 years, but couldn't. And the most common reasons were because of cost, because of difficulty finding an appointment, or difficulty being able to get to an appointment during the hours that the clinic was open. And then 8% had never gotten veterinary care before, most commonly because it was too expensive. And something that I found, especially heartbreaking, is emergency care was the most common type of care pet owners were trying to get but couldn't. And so this is, any sort of low-cost emergency care. Just so many heartbreaking stories of people who shared it in the surveys, who they wanted to get that emergency care for their pet and they were unable to. Sometimes they drove hours and were unable to get that care for their pets. One other piece of data that I just want to share here is we also did a survey, and Dr. Vaden here helped me immensely with this, so thank you, BAP, for your assistance. We did a survey of over 700 veterinary professionals in Colorado to look at these access to veterinary care issues as well. And one of the things we found is they are also, experiencing this lack of access to veterinary care challenges in their everyday work. And so 55% of veterinary professionals have to decline care at least once a week to pets due to an owner being unable to afford it, and 72 have had to euthanize a pet in the past year due to an owner being able to afford treatment. And these are in cases where the pet would have been fine otherwise if treatment was provided. And one of the things that we found from this data when we asked veterinary professionals, is this affecting you? Like, is this affecting your mental health? Not just kind of your ability to provide care, so the mental health of the pet owners. We found that the vast majority of veterinary professionals say that having to euthanize an animal, decline care due to costs, is a huge driver of their mental health challenges. And so these issues, this human-animal bond component, is not just affecting our pet owners, but our professionals who are out there in the field, trying to help animals as well. Okay, and then the last thing I want to mention about some of this is these threats to the animal-human bond are especially, there for our vulnerable populations of people. And so, folks who are experiencing mental health challenges, as you all talked about, and other difficulties in their lives, folks who are experiencing homelessness, they have some additional threats to the human-animal bond, and that is when they're seeking out social services and human health services. As you all likely know, a lot of those social and human health services don't easily incorporate pets. And so, for example, inpatient facilities, even like human health overnight stays, social services, shelters for people escaping domestic violence, shelters for people experiencing homelessness, often they don't accommodate pets. And so there's been some research that's looked at this and has found that people are often less likely to not just seek out shelter from difficult situations, but also delay medical care, like not go to the emergency room because they're worried about their pet and that they have nowhere to bring their pet. So this is another kind of factor that I think is important to think about when we think about the human-animal bond. Those vulnerable populations have this added, difficulty in maintaining that bond. Okay, so now I want to move to the third part of my talk, which is the part I'm most excited about because instead of just getting very depressed, we get to talk about solutions and ideas to address this, and what you all can do as BAP agents, and most importantly are already doing to help preserve the human-animal bond. And so ways that when you're out there on a case, and you're seeing some of these challenges, and you've gotten to a situation, maybe an animal doesn't need to be removed for their safety yet. And that's something I want to emphasize. That's a critical part of what everyone here does. When an animal, needs to be removed for their safety, they need to be removed for their safety. So when we're talking about maintaining the human-animal bond, keeping the people with their pets, that's in a situation in which the pet can remain safe, and there is a capacity to for the owner to care for that pet over time to maintain that bond. So what I would like to do now is hear from you all, and specifically have you all share with each other on resources in your community to help owners struggling to care for their animals or facing threats to the human-animal bond. So when you're out there on a case and you notice that, there is someone that cares deeply about their pets, but they're struggling, and they're struggling with one of these threats. They're struggling with housing. They're struggling with being able to afford care, veterinary care, food, whatever it is, or struggling to get treatment for themselves because of their pet. What resources can you refer, or do you refer people to? And what are some of the challenges in referring people to those resources as well? So what I'd like you to do is maybe get together with a slightly bigger group. Let's say maybe 4 or 5 people around you. And this is going to be our longest and last breakout session because I think this is the most important. And I want you to discuss this question. So what resources do you have? What resources do you use to help those owners who are struggling? Okay. Do we feel ready to share some of the resources? Awesome. Thank you. Fabulous. Okay. What group would like to go first? And I want to hear from at least 4 or so groups because I feel like everyone here has a lot of different ideas and resources to share with others that others can learn from. So, yeah, let's start off with you all. Awesome. And can everyone hear? Should we use the microphone on this? We can use the microphone. Yeah.
So we talked about resources that were available specifically for us, Spur here. So, and low-cost veterinary services that we're aware of, like Peace, Love, and Paws, who help indigent people and stuff like that. And also food banks that are, we have the Colorado Food Bank. We also get a lot of food donated to us. I keep food, enrichment, toys, treats, and those kinds of things on my vehicle. So if I see somebody, and I'll ask, is there anything that you need? Here, come and take a look and see what we've got. Or it's helpful with some cases that I'm on seeing, and it can be helpful to offer those things.
All right, who wants to go next? I could work my way around the room. That's why. Meaning, someone. Bobby.
Okay.
You got nominated.
Okay, I'll go. I do have kind of a weird voice today. This isn't my normal voice, so I would like to just point that out. My daughter thinks it's different. Yeah. Hay banks. Hay banks are a good resource for rural Colorado. Also, organizations, BAP, Colorado Humane, do offer food in rural Colorado because that's basically where we're at. So we will offer to also pay for a vet exam because rural Colorado does not have as many resources as like Metro. We don't have food pantries and stuff like that in a lot of the rural areas in the state of Colorado. So it's a little bit harder out in rural Colorado to provide resources for folks. So it's a struggle.
And where might folks go for hay banks?
There's a lovely website on the BAP and the Colorado Department of Ag website. So, and there's a list there. And also, like KUHA is another really great resource for grants for horses and stuff like that to provide emergency hay funds. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. And does everyone know what KUHA is? Do you want to give?
Yay! KUHA is the Colorado Unwanted Horse Alliance. We work with veterinarians, mainly rescues, and we do an annual grant every year. All of our funding comes from the Colorado State tax checkoff. So if you ever want to make a donation, you can do it that way. And then we give out grants. We run hay banks. We do emergency vet care, farrier work, euthanasia, training grants, anything like that.
Thank you. Yeah, go for it.
Working with our mental health partners, I'm in Boulder County. I learned about some really great resources just by talking with our co-responders, but also calling crisis centers. You can learn about these resources, but we kind of have a perpetual guy who's in and out of detox. But I learned about a nonprofit through our co-responders that will foster their dogs while he's going through inpatient care so that he can get that much needed rehabilitation. So reach out to your mental health partners. They may have similar resources that you just don't know about because I had no idea.
Raise your hand if you are able to work with mental health co-responders. And what is that nonprofit?
I do not remember off the top of my head. Something Star, but yeah.
All right, how about someone back in this area? Yeah?
Our group just talked about kind of on the local level, our retrospective kind of shelters in our jurisdictions. We utilize our shelters Like Boulder Valley Humane has the safety net program, which can help. They have other programs that are very similar that can just help people that are in need with feed, veterinary care, housing, boarding, things like that.
Anyone back here? Anything to add? Other resources you use? You can also add resources you wish you had as well that you don't have available, which is maybe everything, but.
So in Denver, we're kind of in a unique position. We've kind of rotated a little bit. We do have an outreach team that does go out and they provide food for people. We have a specific person that is for elderly people and people experiencing homelessness. We've transitioned a little bit at our shelter because we work out of our shelter that we are able to have our outreach team pick up animals for people that can't drive, bring them to the shelter, provide medical care, get them grooming, spay, neuter, those kind of things, vaccinations. We also have been able to start doing at our shelter, which we hadn't in the past, spay, neuter animals in the community for a very low cost or free. So we also have a STARS team that on occasion, when we're out at a situation, they can find temporary housing for some of our residents. And our shelter also does temporary housing for people as well too, so they can bring their animals in if they need to go away for a while, either in the hospital, incarcerated, that kind of thing. And we can house their animals for a certain amount of time, and they do go out to foster homes, so they're not stuck in the shelter the entire time.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, how about anyone over here have anything to add? Okay, and especially if you have any resources that others in other counties might be able to access to, maybe you could highlight those.
So HSPPR will hold animals for 10 days if their owner is going into housing at the local domestic violence facility. But after that 10 days, Red Rover actually will take over and find housing for the animal. They'll pay for boarding sometimes, or they'll find long-term foster for them.
We got a name of the nonprofit.
It's Positive Recovery with PAW. Positive Recovery.
Awesome, thank you. We got another hand. All right, go for it.
If you have active duty military in your community, there are foster programs out there. So if somebody gets deployed and doesn't know what to do with their animals, there's a foster program out there for active duty military. So that way a foster can help out and keep their pets while they're gone on deployment. And also through the VA, there are opportunities to help get assistance for veterans and their animals as well. So those are things that you guys can look into.
Fabulous. That's really helpful. Thank you. Anyone else have any other resources, especially resources that anyone can access throughout the state? Yeah, Chris.
I don't know if this was said or not. So Denver Dumb Friends League will do a 30-day where they will hold somebody's pet if they're homeless or need that assistance. Foothills Animal Shelter only does it for 10 days, but you can try and access that as well. That might just be for Jeffco residents. And then Evergreen Animal Protection League also will help sometimes with veterinary bills, spay, neuter, any emergencies, and sometimes she will foster too for anybody that's in crisis or in jail.
Awesome. These are some fantastic resources, and I wish I was writing this all down so that I could pass it on. But hopefully, hopefully you're remembering some of these names if any of them are new to you, and they can be a resource in the future. Awesome. Any others that we're missing? Okay. Well, I just have a few slides. Yes, Allie.
Thank you. I assume everybody knows this, but maybe I shouldn't, that the Colorado Pet Pantry operates all over the state. They provide food. They will provide collars, leashes, or cages, and anything you need. And they also have a program where rescues can come in and access those services too, and then they can kind of extend out and provide more resources for people.
Thank you, Allie. Fabulous. Well, this is a great list of resources, and I'm going to try to remember as many as I can and then write them up and send them to Taylor and Claire to send to you. So, so hopefully you can have access to these. But, I figured as I was thinking about this talk, I figured the best way to approach this would be allowing you all to share the resources you already know with each other, because you all are have the wealth of knowledge working with these challenges and figuring out what resources are actually there and available to address a variety of circumstances. So I see. Oh, we're missing one. Yes, go for it. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's a great addition. Awesome. Any others that came to people's mind? Fabulous. Well, I'm just I'm so inspired, and that's what I was hoping to end this talk with, which is, there are all of these resources, that are there, and I think that's really exciting, and it's, and I think, more coordination and hopefully, centralized database, and I know the BAP program has started putting that together on the website, which is really exciting, to be able to access these resources. They're all throughout the state, which is really exciting. So I just wanted to end today by highlighting a couple of resources, and I think most everyone here has covered all of them, but I just wanted to, you already know about this just got signed into law today in front of all of us, but I just wanted to highlight this again because it's so exciting, and I wanted to show a picture of horses, but mainly it's exciting that we now have $200,000, and by we, I mean the state of Colorado, going to helping equine cases and difficult equine cases, and to hopefully supplement the great work that KUHA does in helping owners in need. And I have no idea what that will look like. That is up to you all to decide, but I'm sure it will be an amazing resource very soon. I do folks know about this piece of legislation addressing pet housing policies? I thought I would just bring this up because I think it's helpful to think about, because we know that pet housing is is a huge driver of restricted pet housing policies, is a huge problem in terms of leading to relinquishments, as we saw in the data earlier. And so just keeping in mind, this is a policy that limits the amount that landlords can charge tenants for having pets in their rental units. If you want to look up more information about this, if you're ever talking to someone who's having issues with pet housing, we now have rules and regulations around pet housing and around how much people can charge. And so I definitely recommend looking into that and using that as a resource as you're working with owners too. Dumb Friends League, you already mentioned them. I just wanted to mention one other program, or I can let them, the folks from Dumb Friends League, explain this. Do any of you want to discuss the Pet Assist program as well? Yeah, Allie.
Care otherwise. Did you hear that first part, or do you want me to say it again? It's a short-term foster program for people who need care for their pets for any variety of reasons. If they're escaping domestic violence, going into the hospital, going into a treatment program, experiencing housing instability. It's usually up to 30 days, but under some circumstances we'll extend that. And those animals go out to foster. And it's cool.
Great. And did you have anything you wanted to add on pet housing? Because I know you worked closely on that. No? Okay. Okay. Great. So that's, and they also have a behavioral helpline and some veterinary services at their Alamosa facility as well. Street Dog Coalition. Have folks heard about Street Dog Coalition? Yeah, they are another resource. I thought I would mention them because they do operate, outside of where they were originally founded in Fort Collins. They do operate in a variety of different locations, providing low-cost veterinary care as well. And so I've got the list. They're in Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, Boulder, Longmont, Denver, Grand Junction, and Durango at weekly or monthly clinics, providing that low-cost care. So it can be another place to refer folks to. And they've also started this Colorado One Health mobile outreach program that takes these interprofessional teams. So like you have medical, dental, social work, and more. So so you have professionals helping both humans and pets in these clinics that you can refer people to as well. We also have Annie and Millie's Place, another nonprofit that provides services for people experiencing homelessness and their pets. They're currently based mostly at Longmont, but I know they're interested in helping a variety of cases. Another place to refer folks to, and they do all sorts of innovative solutions as well. Sometimes paying for pets to actually go to daycare so that people can find jobs and have a place to take their pets as they're starting new jobs. HSPPR, I think we have our HSPPR folks? Do you want to talk about what you do? You got your spay and neuter wellness vaccine appointments, I assume. Yes. Anything else to add? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if somebody surrenders a litter, we'll stay in your mom and dad for cost. We'll get you set up with that. So we try and work at prevention of future issues that way, or let's say we deal with a situation if they become compliant.
Fantastic. Thank you. Awesome. And then, do we have anyone from Royce Hurst or the West Slope? No one from the West Slope. Although we have some people who I know have to go out to the West Slope. Well, I just thought I would highlight a couple of their programs that are interesting. They have a variety of things going on, ranging from vaccine clinics, spay neuter, pet pantry. They also have a crisis boarding program similar to what folks have talked about. And so, if you're dealing with cases on the West Slope, a good thing to keep in mind. Their crisis boarding, I have some statistics on it that I did want to share. And so it provides up to 30 days of boarding at no cost. And then in 2023, they boarded 48 dogs with a 77% return to owner rate and 23 cats with a 93% return to owner rate. And so this is definitely a resource to folks on the West Slope as well. They also have this program called Homeward Hounds. And basically they partnered with a local homeless shelter and to build 10 private pallet shelters. And so they're a place for people experiencing homelessness to go with their pets and actually live there. And so in 2023, there were 48 individuals who were able to utilize these shelters. So another great resource for those cases on the West Slope. And then finally, folks mentioned the Colorado Pet Pantry. If you go to their website, they have this great schedule, and it is pretty amazing because they're all over the state. And so, like, depending on where you're dealing with cases, you can go here, and I can almost guarantee there'll probably be a pet pantry event happening sometime in the next couple of weeks that you can refer folks to. And they are a great resource as well. Okay, so I am at a policy center, so I need to end with a little plug for policy here. And so, as we discussed, there are resources out there, which is really exciting to help us preserve the animal-human bond. And you all, as experts on the ground dealing with this every day, you have a sense of what those resources are. And now you know kind of what is happening in other places in the state. But what's been clear to me as I've been doing some of this work is that You know, there's resources, but these resources are so small compared to the demand that's out there. And I'm sure you know this. And it's for a lot of the programs, you know, I'm talking to people who run these incredible programs. Some of them, you know, there's 10 times the demand for the services they're able to provide. And so one of the things that we're working on is just, you know, can we enhance resources going to these sorts of programs, to these amazing innovative programs that already exist, and to shelters and other organizations who are dealing with these challenges on the ground. And so we need help. We need help advocating for more resources. You know, our funding to help equine owners, I think, is just the start. I think we need a lot of work to help people access low-cost veterinary care. We need a lot of work to help pour more funding into these incredible programs that are trying to address this human-animal bond, keeping people with their pets. And you all, as the experts in animal welfare who know and live this every single day, we need your voices at the Capitol. So I'm going to try to recruit you to talk to policymakers about how important this issue is. And if you're ever willing to do that, please do reach out. This is my email. And you could also read a full report on this data, a summary of some of these programs that I shared with you today. It sounds like I have a lot of programs to add to that summary as well, on the Animal Human Policy website, which you can access here. So I will go ahead and end there, I think right on time, thankfully. And I want to thank you all so much for inviting me here today. And I do, if you see opportunities to work together on this, you know, problem of keeping people with their pets and providing resources to owners in need, don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks for all the work that you do.